Okay, we're gonna, before we do any review on what we just did, let's make sure we finish the mimer, and then we'll tie up the, so to speak, the loose ends. But what the Rebbe is talking about is, the Rebbe is now taking us into the world of Yud Tes Kislev and Yud Beis Tammuz. And that both of those days are expressions of the reality that we've been talking about. Because in both of those days, a level l'mayla min teva, a nes, has been revealed in teva, right? And it's meluvash in teva, but it's absolutely obvious that it's a nes. So it's not that something amazing happens and a person might not know that it's miraculous, and they might, a person who's sensitive to elokus would probably include elokus in the whole thing, right? Because we include the Eibishter in everything because of the idea of hashgacha pratis, okay. But someone who's not necessarily sensitive to that wouldn't necessarily involve the Eibishter in this particular event. Why? Well, because it happened up derech hateva, right? So someone who this is a case also where seichel hides emunah very often, which is what we talked about yesterday. Someone who is lo yaleinu, ill, they're very ill, and they're healed by modern medicine. Teva? Okay. The Eibishter have anything to do with that? Well, I would say the Eibishter healed the person, right? And they should, adarabba, if there was a basic mikdash, they should bring a korban toida, and they have to bench goimel, and they thank the Eibishter for this amazing cure that the Eibishter brought to them. But that's a very clear example where seichel could hide emunah, right? What would the person say? It wasn't. There was no. I'm very thankful to the Eibishter, and I'm very thankful that he created this doctor. But the doctor healed me. The doctor did all these wonderful things, etc., right? Right. So I say, "Bereifim toiv shebereifim legehenim." Chazal say, right? Meaning the reifeh that thinks he's toiv, so he goes to Gehenna. Right? The one who thinks that he's the one doing all the curing. The Rofeh has this amazing schus to be the vehicle for Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring about the healing of that person, which is an amazing thing. Right? Okay, but we have to appreciate where it comes from. Okay, in that there's a classic case where seichel can hide emunah. Right? Someone just said Boker Tov from Vienna. Anybody want to say Boker Tov back to Vienna? Hello, Vienna. Everybody here is saying hello, Vienna, because we're all impressed.
Maybe it's Sigmund Freud.
So, that's a classic example of seichel hiding emunah. And the Rebbe said that the unique nature of these nisim were that they were clothed in nature, but nature didn't hide the miracle. And adarabba, ra'u kol apseyaretz, the Alter Rebbe said, right? Even the ministers were absolutely awestruck by what had happened. They said, this is not normal. This is, I assume they used the word miraculous. They were probably God-fearing people, right? Ministers in the Tsar's government in those days were probably people who had some connection to spiritual expression, not the spiritual expression that we believe in or think is positive, but I think still ruchnius. Ruchnius doesn't necessarily mean good, but it's still ruchnius. Okay. And the last thing the Rebbe told us in V'yesh Lemer is not only did it shine through Teva, but actually the forces of evil helped bring about the miracle. They were the kelim for the expression of the miracle. The Russian government and the Soviet government. Mm-hmm. And again, we mentioned yesterday, the Rebbe doesn't mention it here in the Mimer, but at this time, the Rebbe was mentioning this almost every February. The Soviet, well, actually by that time it was back, I guess it was no longer the Soviet Union, it was back to Russia, that the Russian government was helping people leave Russia, right, compared to Israel. Ulahoisif, shall yedeya chibur denes v'teva, shahaya bagulin, by virtue of the joining together of miracle in nature that was in the time of the Gula, nitan hakayach l'kol ha'hilchim. Did we finish this paragraph? Mm-hmm. No, we just saw the beginning of it. We just saw the beginning of it. Right? We know the Rebbe is going to tell us that this all means that we have to work harder. Right? That it's a koyach given to all of us. That what? Will be drawn down into seichel. That's one level. And not only that, okay, so that's what we were just talking about now. That was the last line we saw. And as we said yesterday, but it's very important to emphasize it and remember it and think about it. That's Chassidus Chabad. Chassidus Chabad is all about bringing, what does the Alter Rebbe say in the beginning of Shar Yifat V'Amunah? He's about to write this incredibly powerful intellectual work about the unity of God and explain it to us al pi seichel. And what does the Rebbe say? That through learning this, you'll come to an emunah tahor. That's what he says. He doesn't say a seichel toiv, right? Or havana muka. Right, he does say that also. He says you're going to come to a deeper, but the ikar is emunah tahor. Right? That emunah should shine through seichel. And the Rebbe is going to say some really astounding things about what that means from here till the end of the Maimon. Val derech says, so that's relative to you and I and our avodah and our limud of Chassidus. Right? But what about Hafatzas HaMayanos? So Hafatzas HaMayanos is taking the deepest ideas of Torah out. Now there's two levels of out. The first level of out is what the Rebbe just said, here the Rebbe is not talking about the first level. The Rebbe Rashab explains that the simple pshat in Hafatzas HaMayanos, Yafutza Manasecha, chutza, what's the chutza? Human seichel. That those mayonis should penetrate into human seichel. Now it's very, very interesting. The Baal Shem Tov himself, to whom that was said, that was not his avodah. The Baal Shem Tov was megala the above. There's no question. The Baal Shem Tov was megala the atzmus in Torah and in mitzvahs and in general, elokus in a way that had never happened before. That being said, it was all emunah. It was all emunah. Along came the Alter Rebbe and brought that emunah into Das. And there's many sikhs of that in Chayel. The Rebbe explains the difference between Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe and how they're shayach to Elul, right? And they're meisif chayes in Elul, etc. Right? And the difference in which they affect the avodah of Elul. And certainly Elul's, once we were in the middle of, in the midst of Av, so then the first thing we think about is that Elul is around the corner. So it certainly will. Hopefully, we'll learn those things. But the difference in the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. So interesting enough, the true expression of the Yafutza Manasecha Chutza of the Baal Shem Tov is the Alter Rebbe, not the Baal Shem Tov. The Alter Rebbe is the one that took it to the ultimate Chutza, which is Seichel. So that's what the Rebbe says in the first three lines. Then the Rebbe talks about Hafatzas Mayanos, Baklal, taking Chassidus out into the world. That there's that Chutza also. Spreading the well springs outward. Fourth line. In the last paragraph. On page Shin Chav Hey. Shohuschal Bagula di Yotes Kislev. What do we say Yotes Kislev was all about? The beginning of Hafatzas HaMayanos. Right? What the famous story of the Alter Rebbe in jail? So who came to visit the Alter Rebbe in jail? The Maggid and the Baal Shem Tov came to visit him. And he asked them the interesting, just as an aside, parenthetically, when the Rebbe Shab sent the Frierdiker Rebbe to Peterburg on a mission, he asked him to go try to get into the cell of the Alter Rebbe. And what did he ask him? What question did he ask him? Check to see if there's room for 3 people. Meaning, he wanted to know, did they come in gufim, or did they just come as neshamas? He wanted to know when the Alter Rebbe when the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid came to visit the Alter Rebbe in jail, did they come as neshamas, or did they come in a guf and visit him? So the Rebbe Shab wanted to know, was there room for 3 bodies in the cell? We think of this, cell, this tiny little place, no window. We know where it was. We know this also, because the Rebbe used to have to go on a boat to the interrogation. The actual jail was on a little island in a river, right? And the wall of it was mamish, in the water. And the Rebbe lived in the wall, meaning there were just little places in the wall, no light, nothing, just a place in the wall. That's where he was. How did he know to daven? Because he knew which tziruf of Shem Havaya was illuminating the world at this particular time, right? There's 12 tzirufim of Shem Havaya, but 2 times 12, right? A 3-letter root has 6 tzirufim, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Aleph, Gimel, Beis, Beis, Aleph, Gimel, Beis, Gimel, Aleph, okay? 6 different combinations. A 4-letter root has 24, right? 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. But if 2 of the letters are the same, then it's 12. So there's 2 Ks in Yud Kei Vav Kei. So there's 12 tzirufim of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Each tziruf is shaykh to one of the months of the year, one of the hours of the day. So the Alter Rebbe told time by understanding what level of Yud Kei Vav Kei was powering the world at that particular time, even though there was no light. That's why you should read his book. Read his book. Okay, so Yutes Kislev is the time that what did the Alter Rebbe ask the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid? Why am I here? What am I doing here? What is this all about? And what did they say? You're spreading too much Torah, and there's a kitrug. There's an accusation against you above. But don't worry, you're going to win. It'll all work out. So Alter Rebbe asked them, so should I stop? And they said, no. When you get out, you should reveal it with even more energy. More greatness. So that's why Lubavitch was in the know, and even us guys who aren't in the know, we love to say this, right? Far Petterberg, noch Petterberg. Before Petterberg, before the Rebbe's in jail, and noch Petterberg, after the Rebbe's in jail. Now, if you're a Bucky in the Alter Rebbe's Torah, you'll notice, and there is, a very big difference between what he used to say before and what he said after. Everything he said after is Chabad, 8 pages long, not a page and a half of just a quick idea. It's all explained in depth afterwards, right? So they say before Petterberg, after Petterberg. You want to be really cool, you say noch Petterberg, far Petterberg, noch Petterberg. Before Petterberg, after Petterberg. Then you know you're really in, that you're a gold card member, you know, you get your little Lubavitch card, you get gold, if you can say it that way. And this was added even more in the Gula of Yud Beis Tammuz. The Beis Tammuz, we're not going to get in the whole Indian views. Beis Tammuz, it's what did that bring about in the world? So it did bring about something, but it's hard to understand in Seichel because it took a while. It's not that after that everything was rosy for the Jews. Otherwise, the next 15 years were as difficult or horrible as probably ever. Right? But the way the Rebbe explains it based on it's that which ultimately produced the situation that we're in today, and that is that basically there is no Jew in the world that is not allowed to keep Yiddishkeit in accordance with his desires, which is a very, very unique situation that Jews find themselves in. Very handful of Jews who can't keep Yiddishkeit. In Iran, you're allowed to keep Yiddishkeit. You can't fly an Israeli flag in Iran if you're a Jew living there, but you can keep Shabbos and eat kosher food. Right? Syria is a place where it's difficult. Even there, they manage. Everywhere else, you can do whatever you want, except Tel Aviv. Not allowed to daven in public in Tel Aviv. Other than that, Shal Yedei Achibur, the Nes V'Teva, that by virtue of the unity, combination, joining together of the synthesis, there must be a good word, I'll find it, Shahaya B'Geula, that was in this Geula, Nitan HaKayach was given the ability to everybody, Lahafitz Mayanot, the Pnimius Torah, to spread the well springs of the inner meaning of the Torah. Now that itself is Shalamaylam Ya'olam, Nes, that's a level that ultimately is beyond intellect. Right? A level, that's the whole idea of Pnimius Torah. It's not the level of the Torah that I could come to understand al pi teva. Now, there's all sorts of aspects, even of Nigla, that I wouldn't necessarily understand al pi teva, but once it's revealed to me, I can understand very, very clearly al pi teva. Nigla is Pnimius Torah. Pnimius Torah in Adafka Maimarim in Devarim, because of the whole Indian of man that we learn about in the Rebbe talks about the fact that Chassidus is man. You eat it, but it doesn't fill you up, because you always know there's things you don't understand about what you're learning. We're learning Atzmus Ein Sof. You have any clue what Atzmus Ein Sof is? I have no idea what that is. Okay, we're talking about it, and we know where it fits in this whole scheme that we do. What does Atzmus Ein Sof look like? I don't know. I'm learning Niglin. I'm talking about a shorish and nagaches a para. Okay, so I don't live on a farm, but I have a pretty good idea what an ox looks like and what a cow looks like. I can imagine that event pretty clearly, right? The ubar v'tzida, so the child is on the side. So was the child in the mother when she was born? Was the mother give birth to the child before she was gored, which obviously changes the value of the mother, which changes the obligation of the person who injured the mother. I can get all that. I wouldn't necessarily know those laws if the Eibishter didn't tell me, though that one's pretty straightforward. But once he tells me, okay, so I can figure it out. That's why Nigla is called Lechem Mina Aretz and Chassidus is called Lechem Mina Shamayim. So it's a nature, it's L'maylim Mina Tev. Beyond the world, that's Panemius. And yet what do? We spread it outwards. But when we spread it outwards, Rabbi says something fascinating. What did Yud-Tes give Kislev and also Yud-Beis Tammuz? What did that cause in the world? U'ba'oifen, it can be spread outwards. Shegam kishem nimsaim chutza. That even when they're out, even when you teach Torah, out there in a place where it might be that Torah hasn't been revealed so much, and especially Pnimis Torah. You teach Pnimis Torah to someone who's never learned Pnimis Torah, has never heard of these ideas before. They might not have heard of Nigla either. What's obvious? That this is a level of understanding that's beyond normal human intellect. Anybody who hears an idea of Chassidus realizes they're hearing an idea that is not simply something intellectual. It comes from a higher place. Meaning, the nace of it is revealed even though it goes out chutz, even though it clothes itself in nature. And we'll see, the Rebbe is going to explain what that means. And that which even when Chassidus is found outside of the walls of the Chassidish Yeshiva, or 770, or the Chabad house, or wherever it happens to be, or in the Chabad house, which is also chutza, because who knows where that Chabad house is found, what neighborhood it's in. They're in such a way that the Mayonis, you see that this is a deeper understanding of things. It's not simply that the depths are in a state of revelation, but that the meaning, mitzad the or, in terms of our mimer, this is not only mitzad the power of the light of Pnimius Torah, of the inner meaning of the Torah and the Mayonis, the well springs of the Torah. Elagam, it's also a function of the Kli below. That the outside has become something. It doesn't hide the Mayonis. I mean, you can explain Chassidus and very, very sophisticated ideas about Elokus to a seichel of a human being who's never even heard of Avram Avinu. And yet you can explain very, very sophisticated ideas to that person. Now, there might be certain blanks you're going to have to fill in because they don't quite understand this, how can I say it? But especially the ideas relative to the creation of the world and how that creation works and what the purpose was, etc., etc. You can explain those ideas to someone who's... Right? You can explain this mimer outside to Sinai scholars. If you take a look, that's actually one of the classes I'm going to give in Sinai scholars. Took 3 little pieces of this mimer and put them on, meaning the medrash about the person who asked, they asked for 3 things and one asked for this. Right? And explained the secret of creation from 3 small little snippets of this mimer. Right? Okay. What's an usher? What does that mean? What does it mean to daven? Right? Explain all those ideas. And it'll be munach in the seichel of the person hearing it. If it's explained properly, the person will understand it. The person's in a place of chutzah intellectually. Okay, fine. You say to me, furthermore, the Rebbe says that the chutzah becomes a kli l'mayonos. Meaning Yud Tes Kislev and Yud Beis Tammuz brought about a situation that Olam Hazeh Hagashmi is a kli for the revelation of Pnimius HaTorah. To such an extent, it's really that we're seeing it now. It's just there's an explosion of Pnimius HaTorah also in the Torah world. But very, very many Jews aren't interested in Nigla in any way, shape, or form. But if you were to tell them an idea in Pnimius, they're very interested, and they might even be learning. I mean, they might be doing it in an improper way because it all depends who you're learning from, right? But there's going to be people who will understand, even though they don't know very much, and they're not necessarily very God-fearing, but they're going to understand that the way to get to the Jew is through what they'll call Jewish mysticism. Pnimius HaTorah. That's the way to get to the Jew. Right? And even the religious people who believe in it, but don't necessarily learn a lot of it, what do they realize? You want to talk to a Baal Tshuva and get him into it? You better talk Pnimius. Once he's into it, we had a student, not in Mayanot, in the first Gilgul of Mayanot, a student who came from, am I allowed to say the name? He came from Yeshiva. He came from Yeshiva to the Yeshiva. So I asked him why. He said, well, when I was in the basics programs in Yeshiva, all they did was talk about God, and it was fascinating. They were amazing classes. I really enjoyed them. And then I got into the Yeshiva, and we just learned Gemara all day. And I said, well, what about these amazing classes about God and ideas? So they told me, no, you're finished with that because now you're religious. Now you just have to sit and learn Gemara. I said, that doesn't sound right. So I asked around, I said, who still learns these ideas? So someone told me in Chabad you might find people who learn these ideas. So he came to Yeshiva. But what, to their credit, was Yeshiva Torah? No. You want to light a spark in that Jew. You have to light it. You just have to uncover it. What do you have to do? Pnimius HaTorah. It's not exactly Pnimius HaTorah, but ideas, elokus, God, depth, sophistication in understanding something about the world and God and me and whatnot. Right? So that's what people want. Is it mamish the mayonis? Sometimes it is. Everybody has a Tanya class now.
You get a Tanya class at you?
I think so, for sure. How do you keep the? I'm just using the. I don't mean this. I'm just using this. How do you keep the natives from becoming restless? You teach them Tanya. You're in a non-Levat. It's all over the yeshiva world also, right? You're in a yeshiva that doesn't teach Chassidus, and everybody in that yeshiva is not everybody. A lot of people. It's Chassidus stuff. What's with Chassidus? Because they've all heard about it. Right? Especially now. Right? They've all heard about it. They've all watched Yossi Jacobson. Everybody's seen Yossi Jacobson say something. And they go, wow, okay. So they want to learn it. So what do you do? So in the old days, Lubavitch used to infiltrate into the yeshiva and have an underground Tanya shir all over yeshivas all over the world, but especially here in Eretz Yisrael, especially here in Yerushalayim. The Gabbai Sheni of our shul is his father, Olav Shalom, is the Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz, one of the biggest yeshivas in the world. Right? His brother is now Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz. He was a bacher in Kamenetz. He was in line to be one of the Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz. I don't know who it was, but someone came and started giving an underground Tanya shir in the yeshiva in the 50s, 60s. And he ended up in Lubavitch also. Parts of his family haven't spoken to him for 40 years.
Amazing.
It took his father a long time. But now, at the end of his father's life, his mother's life, it was fine with his parents. But, okay. Why? Because people want Pnimius HaTorah. The world is a kli for Pnimius HaTorah. That's the Rebbe saying here. Not only does not hide the mayonis, it's the place where it can be revealed. And this is a preparation L'kiyum ha'yehud, the fulfillment of that famous statement that's always brought relative to Inyan Mashiach, and the Rambam quotes it as a pasuk in Yeshayahu, and the Rambam quotes it in the end of Yad HaChazaka, v'nigla kavod avaya v'ra kol basar yachtav ki pi avaya diber. And it will be revealed the glory of Hashem, and it will see all flesh together that the mouth of Hashem speaks. In other words, that all of reality is just elokus. Now, what does the Rebbe say? That in this pasuk, the Rebbe is going to explain this pasuk, al pi panimius. Nigla kved avaya, it'll be revealed the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you need v'ra kol basar yachtav? What was that add? Right? That all flesh will see. Oh, so what does the Rebbe say? Shabasar yireh elokus. That flesh will see elokus. Physical reality will see elokus. The flesh, not our eyes of flesh, our flesh. That's the ultimate expression of everything we've learned in the Maimer. Malchus itself, physical reality itself, will reveal elokus, will be a cleave for elokus. It doesn't say ro eine basar. The fleshly eyes will see, which it does say in places. No, basar, the flesh itself. Lerek mitzad agilui the cover of agam mitzad basar, the flesh itself. And that much of that was brought about by virtue of Yutes Kislev. The shiluv, the joining together, the synthesis of the Maila and the Mata. The Maila in this context of everything is Mayonis, Pnimis Torah. That which is super rational ideas. Now, the whole idea is to bring that which is beyond Seichel into Seichel. That's what Chassidus Chabad is all about. Now, the only reason we can possibly touch these ideas is because they've been revealed to people. Okay, so these ideas were revealed to people, and they taught them to us. And now we have a gisha, we have a way of approaching these ideas with our seichel. But the idea is to certainly not understand the idea. So now I think that in no way, shape, or form is emuna necessary. Otherwise, the whole idea of learning this intellectual concept is to enhance emuna, make emuna more tangible, more real, make elokus more real. That's what Yutes Kislev brought about. That's a fatzas amayonis. Oh, so now the Rebbe is going to tie up the, so to speak, loose ends in the Maimon. Now we're going to answer the question we asked at the beginning. V'zeu, and this is pshat v'yadaber Hashem el Moshe. Daber el bnei Yisrael. What was our question? V'yichoi lecha paraduma. Why? What's pshat? They bring the paraduma to Moshe. Right? Paraduma should be brought to a kohen. That's one of the early questions we asked in the Maimon. Right, and we also said, what's paraduma got to do with Moshe? Moshe understood the tam of paraduma, so it's not a chayk. So how does Moshe give you and I the ability to live the chayk of paraduma? For Moshe, it's not a chayk. And you think of everything that we've learned in this Maimer, I'll say it outside, then we'll say it inside. What do Rebbe teach us about Moshe Rabbeinu's relationship with paraduma? Relative to Moshe, what's paraduma? It's choik or seichel? Seichel. He understood it. He understood it. Oh, but be'etzim, what is it? It's a choik. I mean, it's called choik. Right? Oh, so what's Moshe the living embodiment of? Choik and seichel coming together. L'mayla mina seichel and seichel coming together. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Which is really quite astounding. Now, the Rebbe is going to explain to us also, based on what we learned before, that through Tefillah L'Moshe, this is why we learned Tefillah L'Moshe, by virtue of the fact that it's a choik by us, so that means there's a certain aspect in which it's a choik by Moshe, because Moshe, Yisrael and Moshe and Yisrael. Right? So let's see. That which the Paranikras al Shmei Shel Moshe, that is called Moshe's para, Hagam, even though, Hagam means even though, all over. She'inyan a miyuchad shebamitzvahs paraduma, that which is unique in paraduma, as opposed to all other mitzvahs, it's more powerfully expressed in paraduma than any other mitzvah. Hu shachuka shaba, the choik of paraduma. And what does that mean? The ratzon shalomayla michochma of paraduma, the fact that the paraduma is the most powerful expression of ratzon, with no chochma hiding the ratzon, so to speak. All right? What do we see? Ratzon Hashem in the most powerful way. There's no chochma here. There's no intellect here. I don't get it. It's a choik. Who begilui? So the rotzen is begilui. That was what was so unique about paraduma. The choik is most powerfully revealed. Yeah, but our question was, by Moshe, that's not true, right? By Moshe, it's the same as any other mitzvah. The cave and Shemay, that's the Rebbe just going over the question he asked earlier. The cave and Shemesha Yoda Tam Para, and since Moshe knew the Tam of Para, Legabav, relative to Moshe, Ein Chiluk ben mitzvahs paraduma lekola mitzvahs. There's no distinction between paraduma and any other mitzvah. Again, for you and I, what's paraduma? The essential choik. The place in Torah where all there is ratzon, there is no chokhmah, there's no seichel there. I don't get it at all. As a matter of fact, it's counterintuitive. Because the one who's involved in making the whole paraduma happen, he himself becomes tummy. Not the one who's mazar, remember we mentioned that. Not the one who sprinkles it, he stays tar. The ones who prepare it. Okay, so which is really even more hard to understand because they're farther away from any connection to the guy who's actually tummy. They don't even see him, they know who he is. Right? Whereas the one who's being mazah, the dam, etc., so he sees him, he's right next to him. No, he's not, he's done. The guys in the back room, they're the ones who are done. How's that work? Don't get it. Right? And we said that sometimes the chokhmah can hide the ratzon. Right? In a mishpat, that can often be the case. Right? That a person might think, the reason they don't murder is because every society has to have a law against murder, and you can't have murder everywhere. It's impossible. Oh, okay. It's all seichel. The ultimate mishpat. It's all seichel. And the ratzon of Hakadosh Baruch Hu might get lost in there, and it's an avodah to make sure the ratzon of Hakadosh Baruch Hu doesn't get lost in there. Choik, not at all. There's no concealment of the ratzon whatsoever. That was what was unique about paraduma. Ki al yidei mitzvahs paraduma, he chuka lagabe Yisrael. But by Moshe, that's not the case of paraduma, because there's as much seichel in paraduma as any other mitzvah. Oh, so what was the answer? Ki al yidei, what is the answer? Ki al yidei mitzvahs paraduma he chuka lagabe Yisrael. That since paraduma is a choik for us, he chuka lagam lagabe Moshe. It's also a choik for Moshe because of the connection of Moshe and Am Yisrael. And that we saw relative to Tefillah l'Moshe, that we also saw relative to the Yisra and Or, B'Amin HaChoshech, the advantage that happened, the great revelation of light that happened after the imprisonments of Yud Tes Kislev, Yud Beis Tammuz. So the Rebbe explained to us yesterday that was only a Yisra and Or mitzad Am Yisrael. The Rebbeim weren't experiencing concealment. Who was experiencing concealment? You and I. So for them there was also concealment because you and I were experiencing it. So for them also there was a great revelation because for us there was a great revelation. Okay, so too here. Why is it? It's a choik legabe Moshe mitzad the fact that it's a choik for us. So now what? The zeu, and this is pshat in the psuk. Daber al bnei Yisrael. Speak to the Jewish people. Meaning, you are the one who is the leader of the Jewish people, you're the Nasi Ador, you're the Raya Mehemna. V'yiku alecha, as a result of that, they will bring to you something. What are they going to bring to you? The Choik Paraduma. Dal Yedei Daber al B'nai Yisrael. Through the whole reality of Daber al B'nai Yisrael, the fact that you're the leader of the Jewish people, you're the one who guides them. Al Yedei Zehu V'yiku alecha. That which comes as a result of the Daber al B'nai Yisrael is they should bring to you. What are they bringing? Paraduma. Ha'inyan de zois chukas atara b'nagir l'Moshe. The reality of the choik relative to Moshe. Why is paraduma choik for Moshe? Not mitzad Moshe. Let's put it this way, so it'll be easier to understand. Basically, in the Maimon, when the Rebbe dropped the atomic bomb of Raya Mehemna, the Rebbe said there's two different aspects to Moshe Rabbeinu. What the Rebbe called chitzonius and pnimius. Okay. Das Elyon of Moshe is chitzonius. Mitzad Das Elyon, what's paraduma? Seichel. It's not a chayik. So mitzad Moshe, that aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu, paraduma is not a chayik. But there's another part of Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is the Pnimis of Moshe Rabbeinu. Raya Mehemna. Mitzad Moshe is Raya Mehemna. What's Paraduma? Why?
Because he's connected to the Israel.
Right? That's an amazing shot. That's based on everything we learned, right? The Rebbe taught us all sorts of unbelievable things. Just to say simple shot in the pasuk in the end about Paraduma. Daber al b'nei Yisrael. See, if you were just Moshe Rabbeinu and you don't have to daber el b'nei Yisrael, you have nothing to do with b'nei Yisrael, and you're sitting in your tent or on your mountaintop, and you've got you're sitting there drinking herbal tea and getting close to God with your das elyon. Paraduma is not a chayk. Paraduma is seichel. Because up there, that aspect of you is no chayk. Aye. But that's just the chitzonius of you. The pnimius of you is that you are part of the fabric of Am Yisrael. You're the pnimius of every thread in the cloth. That's who you are. And mitzad that, since for them it's a chayk, then for you it's a chayk. And that's why they'll bring to you the chayk of it all. Because for them it's a chayk. Wow.
Oh.
Ella she'inyan zeh, this idea shemi Yisrael nimshach lemesha, that from Yisrael it's drawn to Mesha, hu b'negei lemitzvah atzma. This is relative to the mitzvah itself. The zeh shehi chuka, the fact that the mitzvah is a chayk, bli tam, hu be'ikar b'Yisrael. That's, as we said earlier, that's relative to Yisrael. Oh, okay. But now what? We said, though, that what do we get from Mesha? We get from Mesha the koyach to be mekayim the mitzvah with the proper level of Kabbalah soul. But how are we mekayim the mitzvah? How are we getting that koyach from Mesha? Because Mesha's kiyum of the mitzvah, you would think, is not so much mitzad Kabbalah soul, but mitzad seichel, because he understands the mitzvah. So let's see. Aval b'negei l'kiyum a mitzvah. Regarding the performance of this mitzvah, which unfortunately we can't perform yet now, but Be'ezrat Hashem we will very, 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 very soon. B'chdei sheYisrael yukla l'kayim a mitzvah d'paraduma. In order for us to be able to fulfill the mitzvah, val derech zeh kol mitzvahs, and in this way, all mitzvahs in the proper way. And what's that way? The bittul de Kabbalah soul, with the bittul of Kabbalah soul. Ba'oifin the chukas hakakti gezera gezarti, right? Oh, we're back in the beginning of the Maimer again, right? In a fashion of I've established this statute and I've made this decree. Hanasinas kayach alzeu mimeish. The nasinas kayach to do that bittul and Kabbalah soul comes from Meisha shinyanahu bittul. Is Meisha all about bittul? V'nachnu ma. What does Meisha say? Nachnu ma. Who are we? Mesha is the ultimate onav. Why is Mesha the ultimate onav? Torah says that about Mesha. Why? Because he's the one who all of his milas, he doesn't see any of his milas as shaykh to himself. He sees them all as shaykh to the Eibishter. The Eibishter gave Moshe Rabbeinu these powers that he has, and so he expresses those powers. But in no way, shape, or form does he see it as an expression of how great he is. It's all an expression of how great the Eibishter is. Even though he's great, there's no question. Shinyanu bittul nachnu v'yesh leima shall yedei Mesha yoda tam par. By virtue of the fact that Mesha knew the tam of par intellectually, v'bittul the Kabbalah soul, and the bittul of Kabbalah soul nimshach gam b'soga shalai was also drawn down into the seichel of him, his comprehension. Again, as I said earlier, what was I saying? Mesha is the ultimate synthesis of seichel and lamayla min seichel. Mitzad echad Mesha is bittul, Kabbalah soul. Mitzad sheni, Mesha seichel. Mesha knows everything. He knows the tam of paraduma. So which is he? He's both. Mesha's seichel doesn't hide his Kabbalah soul in any way, shape, or form. He's still the one who has the greatest level of Kabbalah soul, even though he's the one who also has the greatest level of seichel. And again, that's what we said earlier about what's Chassidus all about. A chassid is a Kabbalah soulnik. A chassid is someone who's supposed to do what he does because it has to be done. Right? He's a Kabbalah soulnik. Gezeda chukas hakakti, gezeda gezarti. The Rebbe is going to say later that this is ultimately expressing the idea of a chayk. What does it say about a chayk? It says this is what I said to do, and you don't have reshus laharher achareim, to ponder about it, and generally in a pejorative way. We're going to see what the Rebbe says about that. Let's get there because it's astounding. It's going to explain this also. So I don't want you to appreciate it there because this is delayed gratification. Let you wonder about it. So the bittul kabbalah zon nimshach gam ba'asaga shalei. In other words, his intellect didn't. What did we say earlier? There's a possibility that. What is that? This voice that says follow orders.
So horrible.
And what like it for there?
Yeah, no. Someone sent there was a. I didn't understand why someone sent a video of the Zal, but then I was listening to this in the background. This is what is this?
It's the fire alarm activation.
It's the fire alarm? Okay. So I wish these guys would take care of this. I mean, this is better than it ringing so you can't hear yourself, but this I think was spoofing people out. What did we say? What do we say is unique about a chayk? A chayk, the ratzon of the chayk isn't hidden by the seichel, because there's no seichel. Who's Moshe? Moshe, be'etzem, is the one who, even though there is seichel, it doesn't hide the ratzon. Moshe is the bittul. Moshe is kabbalah soul. Moshe is doing what the Eibishter wants because the Eibishter wants it done. Now, what if it resonates in his seichel? That's fine, still kabbalah soul. The same way, hopefully you don't murder. Why don't you murder? Because God said don't murder. It has nothing to do with the fact that I understand it. God said don't murder. Okay, so paraduma for Moshe is like don't murder for you and I. What gives us the koyach to get to the point where don't murder will be an inyan in bittul and kabbalah soul and not seichel? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu. Where do we see it most powerfully by Moshe Rabbeinu? Paraduma. Here's Moshe's, the highest expressions of Moshe's seichel. A seichel that understands something no other seichel. Shlomo Melech didn't understand this. No other seichel has ever understood such an idea. And yet, absolute kabbalah soul. Bittul. Nachnu ma. Seichel doesn't get in the way. What's the ultimate source of yeshus, of sense of self? Seichel. Human intellect. Source of all evil in the world. There's only evil in the world because there's a being who has seichel. Right? There's this being called humans, and humans can do something against the will of God. They're the only being, the only creation that can do that. Okay, where does it come from? Seichel. So mitzad echad seichel can be a terrible force. Okay, but just mitzad the etzem mitzias of seichel, what might it do? It might hide the chayk, because now I'll say, I understand it. So it hides the miracle of it. It hides the l'mayla mina teva of it. It hides the l'mayla mina seichel of it. Okay, getting relative to teva and nes, so we talked about a doctor, right? Someone gets well and he might think that the doctor healed him. Al pi teva, he got better. He did get better, al pi teva. Who healed him? Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's got to thank a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Where else do we see this very, very clearly? It's less obvious. Making a living. What do we do to make a living? We do all sorts of things al pi teva. And we have to make a clean teva. Who's giving us the living? The Eibishter. It comes from the Eibishter. It does not come from my business. It doesn't come from my job. It doesn't come in. It's all the Eibishter. I have to make a kli down here in teva for that bracha to come down. But I can't let the teva hide the nes of it all. Oh, okay. That's a challenge. Who expresses that challenge more powerfully than anybody else? Moshe Rabbeinu in Paraduma. So even though Moshe knows the tam of Paraduma, it's still a choik by him. No, it's not a choik mitzad the mitzvah. It's the choik mitzad the performance of the mitzvah, the kiyum mitzvah. Mitzad the mitzvah, it's only a choik by Moshe because it's a choik by us. But mitzad the kiyum mitzvah, it's a choik by Moshe because that's Moshe. Moshe's chuka chakakti u gezerah gezarti. Moshe is the ultimate mekabel el. Moshe is the kabbalah solnik. Does what the Eibishter wants because the Eibishter wants it done. He never lets the seichel hide the ratzon. It's so interesting. Geula Cohen was a famous politician in this country, but she was really much more than simply a politician. She fought was she in the Stern gang? She was in one of the I don't think she was in the Stern. She was in she fought with Shamir. So what was Shamir? Shamir, Begin was whatever Begin was, and then there was a little more extreme, and that was Shamir. And then there was like a third, even more extreme than that. That was the Stern gang. So whatever Shamir was the head of, so she fought in that. Or maybe she fought with Begin. I don't know. Anyway, she fought in the establishment of the state in those days. She was a very interesting lady. And then she became a Chaver Knesset. She was the only one who walked out when Jimmy Carter came to speak in the Knesset because she was so adamantly opposed to Camp David. Of course, the Rebbe was also adamantly opposed to Camp David. So when Carter came, she left. Not saying everything against Jimmy Carter per se. She left the government because of Camp David. Well, it's a very interesting lady. So she had Yechidus.
What's her name?
Geula Cohen. Fascinating lady. So her son became a politician, but he was a politician. His name was Tzachi Hanegbi. He's still around. Tzachi Hanegbi is still around, and he's like a politician, He like sort of moves with the wind. She was a very, very special woman. And she had Yechidus with the Rebbe. And she came out and she said something fascinating. She said, he's the most intelligent person that I've ever met in my life. And he has the emunah of a 5-year-old. That's exactly this, right? That's the Rebbe saying here. She chapped it. She chapped to the Rebbe. It's something about the Rebbe that most people don't get. Most people are awed by, this or that or that. What's the pnimis of the Rebbe? Emunah. That's what the Rebbe's all about. What did the Rebbetzin say about her husband? He's a ma'amin. My man is a ma'amin. My husband is a ma'amin. He's a believer. That's the Rebbe. A Maimer Chazal says what it says, the Rebbe will explain it. It doesn't say, oh, well, they didn't really mean it, and they didn't understand, and no. The Rebbe will explain every single Maimer Chazal. Doesn't apologize for one line in Chazal. It's all sorts of apologetics from very, very religious people about Maimer Chazal. Why? Different time, different understanding. Medicine was this way. Well, whatever it happens to be. The Rebbe just explains it. Pashtus. Because it has to be explained. We have 5 minutes to finish the Maimer, guys. We're going to turn into pumpkins at 8:30, and that'll be the end of us. We're right in the middle of the end. Mesh is the embodiment of what it's all about. That the Lamayla Mina Seichel, beyond intellect, should come into Seichel. Nitan HaKayach L'Kol Echad Yisrael. Therefore, it's given the power of every single Jew. She'emuna v'Kabbalas Ol Yunach. That Emuna, beyond Seichel, and Kabbalas Ol Yunach, which is also beyond Seichel. Yunach will rest. So it's uplagen. Gamba Seichel Shalai. Now that doesn't mean I understand it. But I have any questions about it. It doesn't bother me intellectually. I mean, I understand completely how there will be things that I don't understand, and we're going to see later. Lord my heart, let's see it. Let's see the Rebbe say it. V'yesh leimer. D'zeh shamar Chazal chukah chachakti b'gezer gezar, to that which Chazal said I've decreed. Ein l'cha reshus lahar herachareh. And you don't have the reshus to ponder about them and to complain intellectually. Meaning one might think that what's Kabbalah Zol? Kabbalah Zol is, I don't understand this, it doesn't make any sense, and it's counterintuitive, and it bothers my seichel. But I'm going to do it anyway because God said so. But it bothers my seichel. No. If we get to the point we're supposed to get to, it doesn't bother my seichel. My seichel isn't bothered by it at all. Ein lecha reshus lahar her. What's lahar her? That even though lahar her means I'm doing it even though it doesn't make sense and it bothers me that it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't bother me. Shekabbalah sol shalehu be'efen is such a way shaloi rakshu mekayim b'feil. Not only does he perform in actuality tzivur kadosh baruch hu, he fulfills the command of Hashem. Gam k'sheina mevin, even when he doesn't understand. Ela she'ena mahar klal. He's not fetching about it. It's not that it bothers him that this is counterintuitive. Adarabah, his seichel is one with his Kabbalah soul. Even though his seichel doesn't understand the Kabbalah soul, because Kabbalah soul is a level beyond seichel. But his seichel is in line with it. Because seichel doesn't have to understand something in order to appreciate the fact that the thing is proper and good. I don't understand it, Seder, but it's good. It's proper. It's lichtig. It's full of light. Seichel can appreciate that of it. How it works, I don't know. But it doesn't bother me. Adarabah. It rests. Ki gam besichle munach in the Kabbalah soul. It's upliegen. The Rebbe says that all the time, and that it rests there. It's comfortable there. A person's comfortable with Kabbalah soul. He doesn't feel that Kabbalah soul, that there's a certain aspect of him that he has to be mevatel in order to be a Makabal. No. Adarabah, his seichel appreciates Kabbalah soul. Seichel appreciates the fact that he's able to do something beyond his understanding. He can talk about the beauty of such a thing. Can explain to someone else the beauty of such a thing. I can't explain the idea itself. Why? I don't understand it. I can explain the beauty of the fact that there's something beyond my understanding. That itself is a beautiful idea. V'yesh l'kasher zeh Maimer Medrash. We can connect this to the Maimer Medrash. Paraduma remezes ala goliyos. Paraduma, which is burnt up, right? So the Paraduma hints at all the different states of gullus we've been in, and it's all about burning up those gullus. Those gullus. Para zu Mitzrayim, Aduma zu Bavel, Tamima zu Madai, Asher ein ba mum, that has no blemish, ze Yavan. Okay. Mitzrayim, Bavel, Madai, and Yavan. Ki al yedei zeh, shahas seichel, hu ba'ofen shemunach etzlo hinin the Kabbalah soul shelamaylam yaseichel. By virtue of the fact that a person's intellect has come to a point that it rests in it, the matter of Kabbalah soul that's beyond seichel, to put it in slightly different terms, the person's seichel isn't threatened by something you can't understand. Right? Some people are so involved in seichel that they're threatened. They don't believe in the existence of something they can't understand because it threatens them so powerfully. Can't be. Why can't it be? I don't understand. I don't understand it. What's that got to do with anything? Oh. And a person can embrace that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't try to understand everything we can, okay? But is there a level of reality beyond our seichel? Yes, it's a very, very beautiful level of reality, and seichel can appreciate that. So the fact that seichel can allow Kabbalah soul to rest in seichel and feel at home, that is the preparation for final redemption. That the revelation of Elokus in the world will be gam mitzad ha'olam. It's not going to be as it was in Bayis Rishon, Bayis Sheni. There's a revelation of a level beyond the world in the world, but it hasn't affected the world such that the world is now completely transformed, so it's a place of revelation. No, it could disappear, and we know it did. Bezuya shaykh is the zeis chukas the sveifas apara. How do you burn the gullus? What's the ultimate chayk? Burning the para. What's the para? The para represents all sorts of different levels of gullus. In the Hakdamah or Yomim, the Rebbe talks about, he mentions the Friedrich Rebbe talking about burning gullus. Now, when you burn something, on a certain level you destroy it, but ultimately it's elevated to a higher place. Dal Yidesha Kabbalas O, by virtue of the fact that someone's Kabbalas O, who ba'ifin she'ena mahader, it's not that he doesn't kvetch about it because that itself is Kabbalah soul. I'm not allowed to kvetch. No. He doesn't kvetch because Kabbalah soul doesn't bother his seichel. His seichel appreciates Kabbalah soul. It's an amazing thing. Ki gam b'sichle munach ini the Kabbalah soul, also in his seichel, it rests, this notion of Kabbalah soul, nasa sreifas apara. That's what brings about the burning of the parish or a mezes ala golus. How do you burn gullus? Bring about this shiluv of l'mayla mina seichel and seichel, which is why hafatzas hamayanis is all about the way to bring about the end of gullus and bring the gula. Because what's hafatzas hamayanis? Bring about the revelation of the l'mayla, that which is beyond the world, in the world, and make the world a kli for that. And the world is definitely, there's no question, becoming more and more a kli for that. That we made big news in Israel. The guy, was sent around in all the WhatsApps here in Eretz Israel. It's unfortunate that so many Jews don't speak Hebrew, so they can't appreciate these things, right? But on the second largest television channel in Eretz Yisrael, there's two guys. One guy is sitting in one ulpan and the other two in another ulpan. So there's, on your screen, you see two screens. And these guys clearly the experts, and this guy is like the reporter guy. So he says, I just want to, before we start this discussion, I just want to play you a clip of the Rebbe talking about this. It's on Israeli television. So he plays a 45-second clip of the Rebbe, a sikh of the Rebbe with Hebrew subtitles below it, where the Rebbe is talking, it wasn't a sikh, the Rebbe is talking to someone in dollars. So we're talking to an Israeli politician in dollars. And the Rebbe says that the best defense is offense, and when people are threatening you, the best thing to do is to strike first. So he ends the clip. Says, okay. That's what the Rebbe says. Now, what are we going to do with that? This is Israeli television. That's called Hafatzas Mayanot chutza. Right? Now, he didn't just say what the Rebbe said. He played the clip, right, that everybody should see. The Rebbe is saying this. Okay, now, what should we do? Wow. And this happens all the time. Right? I mean, especially it's called Arutz Arbasra. It's a station that is not anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish, so which is unusual in this country. So it's become this. It started. I mean, they tried to outlaw it. They tried to get the Supreme Court to outlaw the station, which is what they do to try to keep these voices quiet. But they can't do it at the ballot box, so they do it through the courts, just like America. So, but they failed. So they started this station, and it made it to be the second biggest station in the country. Meaning the one that has always been the government station is still the biggest. That's just what people have been watching forever, right? But this is now the second biggest. So there's a lot of people who watch this station here in this country. It's called Arutz Arbasra. If you want to read Israeli news, so you can, online, so you can read Arutz Arbasra, and it's not anti-Semitic and anti-Israel news. On the other station, so they will quote one of the most respected voices in Israeli literature and reporting, and journalism, etc., who wrote an article last week that he thought it was a good idea. Maybe if the Iranians want to attack, they can attack Netanyahu's plane. Yeah, so he's a very respected person, and he's not in jail. Nasa Sreif, how do you burn the gullus? You burn the gullus by making this shiluv of this level beyond nature and nature. Kepit gama yadua the Bala Geula, like the famous statement of the Bala Geula, and that you look at footnote 75, you'll see a yem yem b'tchilase, this idea of burning the gullus. Rabbi quotes it in the Rebbe's Hakdama to Hayem Yem. V'holchim kulanu yachad, we'll all go together in the Sienu with our leaders, Bala Geula, Bereshenu, and Frierdiker Rebbe at our head, Legeula mitis v'shlema, to the true and complete redemption, V'bias Mashiach Tzidkenu b'karav mamash. Okay. It's rather amazing. It happens to be one thing, if you have time, it's our last class. It is very interesting just to note that it's in line with what we saw at the end. The Rebbe said a sikha right after this mimer. Fervent. The Rebbe said the mimer at the beginning of the fervent, Shabbos, you're based on his Tafshin Chavtes. Then the Rebbe said a sikha. The sikha is printed in Melukat Sichas Chelik Yud Ches. It's the first sikha in Parshas Chukas. And in that sikha, the Rebbe asked the same question. Gives a different answer. One of the things the Rebbe said is really, really fascinating. So what pshat in the Medrash that the Yevish was Megala Tam Para to Moshe. So the Rebbe here in our Maimer, it meant that he was Megala the Seichel of Para to that. The Rebbe's Chachma Datzil, the Seichel. In the Sikha, the Rebbe says a completely different pshat. This is another way of looking at it completely. What was the Eibishter Megala to Moshe? Tam Ratzon. He appreciated the Ratzon of it without any seichel getting involved. Gave Moshe, and that's very similar, the very line of what the Rebbe says at the end of the Mimer, that seichel shouldn't in any way, shape, or form dissipate the Ratzon of something. And this sort of, and the Rebbe talks about that a lot in the Sikha. So, but it's such an interesting pshat. It's not. It's in that Sikha. The Rebbe says the pshat in the Maimar Chazal is not that Moshe understood it. It's that the Eibishter was megala the ratzon of it to Moshe completely. He tasted the ratzon, which is very much in line with what the Rebbe says at the end of this Maimar.
And that's in Chelek.
Yudches.
Yudches.
Chelek Yudches. It's the same for Brandon. 5 minutes later, we had a completely different shot in the same Maimar Chazal.
But it wouldn't happen if he didn't have this tremendous Chabad.
Oh, for sure. You couldn't taste that if you can't get past your seichel, 100%. Seichel. I mean, simple shots. There are many people who are just so stuck in seichel that you'll say an idea to them, and if it doesn't make sense within the context of the very limited reality that they experience by virtue of their intellectual understanding of things, so they just can't accept the idea, and they don't appreciate the idea, and they don't in any way, shape, or form, therefore enjoy the idea. Just can't do it. The ultimate is to get to the point that seichel doesn't hinder the revelation of something beyond seichel.
Thank you.
An amazing, it really is. It's one of those Maimarim that you sort of wonder. I don't mean this in a fly the flag way. I just really like how did anybody ever understand